Hello ladies and gentlemen, Safehouse here, and today I'll be showing you the top 5 builds in Path of Exile, not just because of their strength, but for their diversity and how much fun they are to play. These builds are my opinion, and I am fully aware of plenty of others out there, but I wanted ones that played quite differently to each other, so everyone's going to find something that they're going to want to play and they're going to enjoy. Also, a lot of the gameplay on screen is not mine, but I have permission from the people who do own it, and links to the original videos in the description if you would like to see any more of certain classes. Also in the description I've got links to guides that are going to show you how to make these classes. Some of the guides are slightly out of date with the recent changes to the passive tree, but as you go along you'll be able to work that out for yourselves, and everything else is still the same. Firstly, we start with one of, if not the strongest build going around at the moment. It is the Low Life Sporker, which has been playing on screen this whole time I've been talking. Generally people pick the witch class for the starting position on the passive tree, but it is not a requirement. It relies on totems to deal massive AoE damage that is increased when low on life, but as you can see from the HP bar, it is limited already to a low point, so the damage is always increased. Can be quite expensive with the wrappings, but you don't actually need them to do the build. Only when you get to really late game you're going to want to get those wrappings, but hopefully by then you'll have enough that you'll be able to afford them. So it's not a super expensive build, but it can be if you want the very top tier items for it. Also, the gameplay I am showing may not be the exact build you want. It is just to give you an idea of the playstyle of that particular build, so you can see whether you want to play it or not. Next up we have the Facebreaker, which you can see on screen now, who pretty much does just that. Breaks faces. Generally you are going to want to pick up a duelist for this build, but like everything you can pick a decent amount of other classes that will fulfill the same role. As you can see, it destroys mobs from melee range with nice AoE and single target damage. Unfortunately it is very heavily gear dependent, so this build may not be for you if it's your first time around. If it's your first character you might want to look at something else and then come back to the Facebreaker, because you will find in Path of Exile that there is a lot of re-rolling and trying out different classes and seeing what you enjoy. Obviously there is a link to a guide in the description like all of these builds that I am discussing, but I think you'll find most of the melee builds are a little bit more gear dependent than the ranged builds and the casters. But anyway, that brings us into the next one, the Summoner, which is probably my favourite build at this point, just because I love the idea of being able to summon up an army to do your bidding. When fully spec'd you can have over 20 summons out at once. Some are more useful than others though, but it does leave you quite vulnerable to things that get past your wall of minions. You are very squishy, and it does mean that you have to spec a fair amount of HP, or like me, grab Chaos Inoculation and stack up the shield, but this does still leave you quite squishy, and some of the tougher fights you're going to have to know how to do pretty well beforehand, otherwise you will die. This build is about getting a heap of minions and getting as many auras ticking over as you can in order to buff those minions as much as possible so they can really do a lot of damage and stay alive at the same time. There are plenty of other cool things you can grab, like exploding minions, as mine are doing on the screen, and you can get cool skins to change what your summons look like your skeletons. You can make them look different. Also, it's one of the cheapest builds going, so it makes it a good introductory sort of one. It can be a little bit slow when you first start out, only having a couple summons, and it's definitely not for everyone because you kind of have to stand back and let your minions do most of the work while you rain fire on them or one of the other spells. Now we have the Lightning Arrow Frenzy Ranger, which can also be played as a Templar and a couple of the other ones. For those of you looking for a Ranger or something that shoots cool looking lightning out, this is going to be the build for you. But seriously, this is a great build with high DPS and quite a lot of lifesteal as well. As you can see in the gameplay, the mobs aren't hitting hard enough to get through that lifesteal, so that does make it an even better build. It's also not overly expensive, but there are mobs with high elemental resistance and even ones with elemental reflect that make it near impossible on some maps for this build. That being said, you can use bear traps to get around these resistant mobs, and it really is a fun build to play if you are looking for that archer style build that is also viable end game. And finally we have the Infernal Blow Marauder, a super tank for those of you just looking to soak up all that damage. It is another gear dependent build though, and you may struggle a bit later on in the game without having the correct gear, but the guide is very new player friendly, so this could help you out if this is what you wanted to do. As you can see in the gameplay, it doesn't really take much damage, but obviously sacrifices DPS to be able to beat this tanky. It can very easily solo, but is more suited to group play, which is something that is easy to do in Path of Exile. Very, very easy actually. You can find groups to do any mission. So if you enjoy playing a tank, then this build is going to be the one for you. Anyway, I hope this helped you out and helped you make a decision on what build / class you wanted to play. Don't forget to check out the original gameplay videos and guides in the description for more information. Good luck burning through all those mobs, and see you next time, guys. Thank you very much for watching, and if this video helped you out or you just enjoyed it, please smack that like button, or you can also subscribe to my channel for more videos similar to this one. Thanks, guys.